Alright, time for another video lesson. Figured I'd start with my beautiful face here saying hello. So Mrs. Derby back here again with Unit 7. This time we're doing Lesson 2 together like that. So you should have your workbook out and ready with you. Or you should have your documents open from Illustrative Math with the online links that we're providing. We're looking at Lesson 2 and we're talking about study types. So let me get you going here so we can see what kind of study types we are looking at. Now, when I see it, just get us kind of a starting screen here like that. I'm going to be working with my slides today that we have, so you'll see me kind of drawing all over this stuff. And so what our target is for today is that we're going to be looking more at different kinds of studies. We're going to be examining these different types of studies. First of all, can we recognize the difference between the three that we started talking about in Lesson 1? Those three things would be a survey, an observational study, and an experimental study. Can we tell the difference between those three types of studies that we would do? And can we make sure that the study design that we are choosing actually matches the purpose and the question that we are trying to answer? Right? If we don't match that purpose that we're looking for, if we aren't answering the question that we are seeking an answer to, we're using the wrong kind of survey or the wrong kind of observational study, or we might need to take a look at a different way we could organize it so that what we're looking to answer, we can actually get an answer to. All right? So let's kick off and with our warm-up, starting there, 2.1. Our warm-up is asking, what is different about these questions? And so for each question, we're going to decide if it is a statistical question or not. And if it is, we want to tell whether it's a study, an experimental study, an experiment that's going on, an observation, or a survey, and be able to explain why. Now you might ask yourself, what do we mean by a statistical question? A statistical question is one that doesn't have like a right and wrong answer. Okay? Statistical questions are ones that we are looking for information. We might find a little variance or a little variety in what kind of information we are gathering in the data that we're seeing. But a statistical question is not one that just has a single answer. So for example, if I were to ask, how many teams are there in the NFL? That is a set answer. There are only a set number of teams in the NFL, and that's not changing. So it's not up to personal interpretation or opinion. There's not much statistics going on there. It's just a right and wrong answer. Okay, so we're going to first see if it is a statistical question, and then we're going to see what best fits. So, question number 1 asks, do dogs who eat only brand A of dog food have more health problems than those who eat a variety of food brands? This is a statistical question. This is something that I might find some different variances for dog breeds, or how much the dog weighs, or how often the dog goes for walks. So I'll find definitely some variance. There's not just a right and wrong answer to this. So this one is a statistical question. I'm going to put an S there, meaning statistical. And then to ask the second part, is this an experiment, an observation, or a survey to answer this question? We can actually do this a couple different ways, right? We could very much set up an experiment that would answer this question. We could have a control group of ones that ate only dog food A, and a group that has multiple varieties of dog food. And so we could then compare the health problems of those two. I could also do a survey. Survey might be very helpful here, where I'm asking different dog owners, hey, how many times have you taken your dog to the vet? How many times have you switched their brand of dog food? Is it always the same brand, or are you using multiple different varieties? All right. So I could do an experiment, I could do a survey. I probably can't do an observational study with this. I don't know for sure if vets are asking every person that comes in to a clinic if they're feeding their dog one brand of dog food, or if they're feeding them multiple. And so, since I don't know if I can look back at vet records to answer this question, I'm going to have to do my own study to make sure we've got it. Question 2. Do people who sit for at least 8 hours per day have more health problems than those who sit for fewer than 8 hours per day? Let's see, there's no right and wrong answer to this. This is a statistical question, something I can gather data on and probably see a little variety in my answers. So, this is a statistical question. I'm going to put an S there to mark that. And if I wanted to answer this, I probably would not want to do an experiment with this. I don't want to have an experiment where I'm forcing people to sit for 8 hours a day because I might cause them some health problems. And the first idea of doing an experiment is not to cause problems and make it worse for people, right? So the big example of like, how many cigarettes do you smoke before you get lung cancer? Well, no one has ever done that. No one's going to just sit someone down who has never smoked before and force them to smoke cigarettes until they develop lung cancer. That's just irresponsible. It's just not a good idea. All right? So there's that kind of idea. So I wouldn't do an experiment. For this one, though, I could do a survey. I could ask people, how long do you sit at work? How many health problems do you have? Or I could ask for that kind of information for that from them. So a survey would probably be the best way to do that. And I realized I forgot the letter V in the middle. So I could do a survey. I could potentially do an observational study. So if I observed some groups of people who sat for 8 hours a day, I could then ask them, or I could see how many times they have gone into the doctor, or I could ask their doctor, hey, how long do they say they sit per day, or what kind of job do they have? So I could possibly do that from an observational, but I would say definitely a survey is probably the best way to do this one, so I'm going to put a big star by that survey, because it's probably the best way I would be able to accomplish this. Which brand of dog food has the most protein per serving? The most protein. This is a right and wrong answer. This is something I can look at the nutrition information on dog food and I can know the answer to this. So this is not statistical. So this is not even a question that we would need to conduct a survey for, because everyone's going to do the same thing that we would do, and that is like flip over a bunch of dog food and look at the nutrition information and rank them for which one has the most protein. So this is not statistical. We're not even going to go on to answer how we would study that, because it's not even something we would study. It has a right and wrong answer. One branded dog food has the most protein. We would just have to find out what that is. Okay. Last but not least, do people who eat a low-fat diet feel healthier? Ooh, there's that key word right there, feel. Feel healthier than those who eat a variety of foods. This is a statistical, there's no right and wrong answer to this. I can't say definitively that this amount of fat in your diet is the way to feel healthiest. It's going to be different for different people. And because I'm looking for how people feel or for their opinion, I think a survey is going to definitely fit best for this one. If you're wondering why my writing is pretty terrible, it's because it's awfully hard to write with a mouse. I miss my my whiteboard. Alright, so there's our warm-up right there. Good discussion about whether things were statistical or not, and which one fits the best. So let's continue on. When we're looking at our study type matching, right? Take turns with your partner. So if you have a partner next to you, you could talk to them about it, about whether something is a survey, an observational study, or an experimental study to collect data for this. Make sure you're explaining why and discuss with each other if you disagree. Or we're going to kind of walk through this together and have a chance to see what my answers would be for this, and hopefully yours are matching. So, do smokers get in more car accidents than non-smokers? Definitely, again, I don't want to do an experiment with this. All right, an experiment would mean I'm I'm having people, first of all, smoke or not smoke, but then I'm forcing them to get into car accidents. I don't think that's a good idea at all. And an observational study would be really tough to do. First of all, I can't stand out on like at the corner of M120 and Giles and just wait for a car accident to happen in front of me and then like rush up and say, hey, are you a smoker? That's not a good use of my time. There's not enough accidents there. And also, I don't know in police reports if they collect that information. So I can't go look at police reports of car accidents and know that answer. So because I can't definitively look at something and get past information, I would have to get a survey for this. I'm going to put an S for survey. I could ask people, have you been in a car accident in the past 5 years? And are you a smoker? And I could find the answer to that pretty quickly if I used a survey. Number 2, what is the student's favorite type of sport at this school? We're thinking about favorites or feelings or emotions. That is almost always going to go for a survey. All right. Can't do an experiment. There's no control group going on here. Can't do an observational study. I can't tell just by looking at people what sport they like or which one is their favorite. First of all, we have lots of students who are in multiple sports, and so I can't tell for sure that one is their favorite over another just because they're on a team. And also, you might really, really like a sport and be really, really bad at it, like me. Right? I love playing basketball, but I'm terrible at it. I got cut from my team in 7th grade. They made me the manager so I wouldn't feel so bad, I guess. And they gave me a uniform, and it was really nice. But I was not good. And so that kind of idea means I can't tell a favorite type just by looking. I'd have to ask people in a survey. Do people who chew gum while studying do better on tests when they chew gum while taking the test than when they don't chew gum while taking the test? Well, this is something that I could very much set up an experiment for. And in that experiment, I could find a bunch of people who chew gum regularly, and then I could divide them into 2 groups. I could have one group that lets them chew gum while they take a test, and a second group that says no gum. And I could look at their test results and make that comparison. So this is very much something I could set up an experiment for, where I've got 2 groups that are distinct and I can compare the results of each group. Number 4, how has the percentage of the world's wealth owned by the top 1% of individuals changed over the past 300 years? There's a lot of stuff going on in this question. So first of all, we're talking about the whole world. And second of all, we're talking about 300 years. So because we're talking about the whole world and 300 years, a survey does not make sense. I can't go back in time 300 years ago and ask people how much wealth they have, or if they're in the top 1%, or how much money they own. I can't do that in a survey. And there's no experiment going on here. There's nothing that is one variable that might impact another. So this one's going to have to be all based on observational studies. I would have to go get maybe tax records or, I don't know, business information or something like that, where I could figure out who's in the top 1% and how much money they own. But it would have to be an observational study because I can't go back and do a survey or an experiment with people. Number 5, do strawberry plants produce more fruit when growing in a greenhouse or outside? I'm seeing that same kind of graphic I drew up above, where I have 2 distinct groups, where we're in a greenhouse or we're growing outside. And I could compare these 2 to figure out how much fruit, how many strawberries they're making. Because I have 2 distinct groups like this and I'm comparing their data, this is sounding an awful lot like an experiment that I would do. And number 6, what are the most important issues? Most important issues for voters. It's asking people for their opinion. in a district at the moment. This one, if I'm asking for an opinion or their inner thoughts or ideas, this is going to have to be a survey. I can't tell their important issues just based on who they vote for, so I'd have to ask them that question. Alrighty. So when we were looking at those things, a little summary going on here first before we move forward. A survey is any time that we're asking for opinions or we're seeking for a reason why somebody did something. If I can't see it on the outside, if it's something going on in their brain, I need to ask them that. So surveys will do that. If an experiment is unethical, I could also do a survey. Right? So we have to think, some things we might be able to answer with an experiment, but if it's going to harm someone to do that experiment, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do that. That's not cool. So surveys can help us when experiments are not possible. An observational study, we're looking at something if you can see a behavior or gather it from some kind of document or information, that is going to be an observational study. And last but not least, an experiment, if it's safe and we can have 2 or more groups, it's okay to have more than 2 groups, but you need to be able to have distinct groups for a topic. And we're looking at how one variable impacts another. We'll be doing an experiment. All right. So, quick overview. What type of study are you likely to be conducting if you collect information about populations, learn about the population, compare populations, compare variable influence within a population? My gosh, all that stuff. If we're doing something that big, that is definitely sounding like an observational study. So much data we can collect on people. And why is a survey a useful type of study? Well, there might be something that I can't see, or something that is really opinion or feeling based, something about what we like more than another. A survey is going to tell us some information that we can't always see. Even things that we can see. I make the comparison sometimes with buying cereal in the grocery store, right? Now, I can observe what is the most bought brand in a grocery store, or the most popular cereal out there. I can observe that. And I can even observe people and see which ones they compare to each other before they buy one or another. But that's not going to tell me someone's favorite cereal. Right? I would have to do a survey to do that. My example, I love Lucky Charms cereals. It's my favorite. I love the little marshmallows. They're so crunchy. And so that's my favorite type of cereal, but I don't buy it. You'll never see me buy it because it's too sugary and I don't eat much breakfast anyways, and there's other information like that. There are just things like you're not going to find me buying cereal. So instead, you would have to ask me what my favorite cereal is in order to know that for sure. All right. Now, coming up next is 2.3, relaxing television. And it's going to conduct a study of 1,000 people aged 20 to 23 and ask them how much television each person watches each night and how each person would rate their energy levels. I'm going to ask you to complete this one on your own, and we'll check our answers either tomorrow in class or on Classroom using our slides for class, or maybe you're going to use a Google form to do that. So look for the instructions with this video posted to see how you're going to do this one. And I'm going to ask you as a check about if you understand this lesson to complete relaxing television on your own. All right. And our lesson 2 summary. We always have to think about what makes the most sense and what is the most effective way to do a study. All right, that's really what lesson 2 is all about. So what type of study would you conduct if you wanted to know how many hours high school students spend gaming on school nights? I gotta tell you, I am not going to do an observation for that one. And you shouldn't either, because that means you are going to one person's house and kind of watching them and kind of being a creeper. And that's not cool, alright? Don't go doing that. So when we're thinking about what type of study, I think a survey would be best. We could ask people to give us a number of how many hours they spend gaming per night. Let's see, what could be a challenge of using a survey to compare weightlifting routines and how quickly they build muscle? Oh, all right. So I'm trying to make a connection between what routine a person uses to do weightlifting and how quickly they're building muscle up. Using a survey might be tricky here. They might over or under report information about their routine that they're using, or how much muscle they feel like they're building. And so that over or under reporting in a survey means that there might not be the most reliable data. Okay, so over or under reporting is going to be a pretty big issue on this one. I also don't have like some specific weightlifting routines that I'm asking them to fit into. So a survey, they might have, there are thousands of weightlifting routines out there. And so I don't have a set number of groups about their routine. Oh, my writing is terrible here. But the fact that we have so many different routines out there, it would be really hard to make some comparison to say which one is the best or builds muscle the fastest. Just from doing a survey, I would really have to lock some people into a set routine and somehow measure how much muscle they're building, because it's too many routines for me to just figure that out. When you're ready, pick up lesson 2 cool down, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, friends.